and here on the Google Hangout. So we're live here. We'll try to do the best we can, or I'll try to do the best we can as far as when we get moving around, as far as who's talking and kind of in that respect. I'm going to go ahead and turn on question and answer, so if you guys have questions that are out there watching, you can type along the right-hand side, and we'll try to answer questions. I believe that you can see the three other gentlemen that are joining me, Brooks from Ball State, and Chris at Houston, and Luke at Virginia. I'll go ahead and get started. I'm Matt Schilling, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the video coordinator at the University of Minnesota. I've been here, this is my 4th season here. We're using Exos Thunder, we're using Thundercloud, we're using Thundercloud Playbook also, and we're using Adobe Premiere for post-production. So if you guys want to go through, Brooks, I'll go ahead and we'll start with you and kind of go along that same route, and then we'll get started with some of the how-to stuff.
Sounds good. Brooks Santanello, I'm from Ball State. I've been here for about 7 months now. I came from Murray State before. We're a DV Sports School here, and we're a DV Sports School back in Murray State. I personally use Final Cut Pro for all my highlights that I make here, and also with DV Sport we use the Shuttle app for the iPads for the coaches, and also Galaxy as far as a remote thing for the internet for players to watch film and stuff. So if you guys have any questions as far as DV Sport, I know Luke is also a DV Sport user, and if you have any questions for Final Cut, make sure and send them my way.
Chris, go ahead.
My name is Christopher Miller. I'm at the University of Houston. I've now been here for, this will be my 2nd season. I was at the University of Wyoming for 3-4 years prior to that. We are a Exos Thunder school down here. We're looking to integrate into the iPad work, and we use Adobe Premiere to make all of our highlight films, anything like that. So glad to be here, guys.
All right. Luke, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Is it working?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we got you.
Hey, I'm Luke Goldstein. I'm at University of Virginia. This is my 13th season at University of Virginia. We are a DV Sport house here. We also use iPads. We have iPads for the entire team, using Shuttle, Galaxy 360, kind of all kinds of pieces of it. And down here we use Adobe Premiere for our post-production editing. Most of that's done by my assistant. I've kind of moved out. I figure I'm old enough that I've moved out of the being hip to the songs that the kids like, so I don't do that anymore, but I'll still help out when necessary.
Sure. All right. I have just kind of a general outline of kind of just thoughts of what we've emailed each other, and basically we'll just kind of start it out with practice and kind of talk about how often you drop cards, what do you use to drop cards, and we'll start that way. We have pre-practice for kickers, and then we'll do anywhere from 2 to 3 other drops. And one thing that I found helpful, and I picked it up at the national convention, or the national conference, I'm sorry, that would have been corrected a long time ago, but we use tennis balls, and we basically this line here just marks where I slip the tennis ball. I squeeze it, put my SD card right in the tennis ball, and then guys are able to throw them down. We have permanent towers on our practice fields, and we're able to throw them down, and then we will not. We lost an SD card last year. It was just our pre-practice card, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but I never found it. It was getting dark, and so I was like, well, we just didn't get it that day, and I just chalked it up to being lost in the grass. So I found it useful. So one thing I did see then I'll pass it on, is the 49ers use Nerf footballs, which is an interesting deal. They do the same type of thing. They cut a slit in it, and they're able to throw the Nerf football down there. They use the SD card. So, Brooks, go ahead.
All right, since we are a smaller school compared to a lot of schools like Minnesota and Virginia, we kind of have to do it the old school way a little bit. Since we practice in our stadium and not on a practice field. Am I on here? Okay,
Yep.
now I'm on. Since we practice at our stadium, there's not really any way to drop it besides just physically going up there and getting it. Where we shoot is on the second level for the sideline. So whenever we go up there and get it, there's no really easy way to get it besides going up there in an elevator. So I physically run up there, get the cards, and bring them back down for transfer later on. We only drop once, and we drop about 2/3 of the way through practice, and it works out fine because we can at least get all of practice done up through that point. And then after that, we will take the cards afterwards, after practice, and we'll start editing right away. And I'll have another filmer sitting right next to me helping with the editing process. Some of that is because we just switched from SD to HD, so a lot of our resources as far as money went into that, and also I'm in charge of CoachCom as opposed to pretty much every other video coordinator across the country. So it kind of has to go through my budget and kind of have to work around and find ways to cut costs and stuff. And with the vitality of SD cards and the simplicity of losing them, like Matt was saying, we just do it that way for now, and then later on we'll try to expand and get more cards and be able to drop more with that. So there's not really a whole lot I can really say for that compared to the other guys.
Chris?
Our practice format usually, depending on the day, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays when we practice, we'll have a 2-hour practice. On Thursdays, we'll have the 1-hour practice, pre-game things like that. During a normal practice, we'll drop possibly 2 to 3 times, depending on the amount of situations that we have through the practices. We have 6 different lifts. Generally, I'll have one person who is a card runner run around from each and every end zone. So we'll have 4 end zone shots and 2 sideline shots. Run to each lift. They'll drop the card. Matt's idea with the tennis ball is fantastic because literally every time I've had to drop a card, it's either been windy or it's been raining, and I've had to crawl into a lift numerous times before. It turned into basically a magazine photo shoot where my shirt came off, which no one wants to see, and climbing into a scissor lift to try and find a card at 6 p.m. at night when it's dark out for us. So it's been a trying time with things like that. But normally we'll put a laptop into travel mode, one of our laptops that we usually take with us on the road. We'll bring that out to practice. We'll import directly at practice. We'll take the first 3 periods, put them on the laptop, then I'll send my assistant in to our office, and he'll import the last cards that we have that are ran in from practice. So that generally we'll have practice up about 10-15 minutes up after practice for coaches and GAs to go through. And like Brooks was saying, with doing the coach comm and things like that, we're having to run music too here at Houston. It's generally my iPhone, so if you text me or call me during practice, I thoroughly appreciate it because I get a nice little ringtone. But no, we put them on airplane mode, run the music, and see what happens. Right now, the popular song of choice is "Happy" by Pharrell Williams, so that's generally what's going to be playing down here at the University of Houston. But no, that's what we do for practice. And just kind of to show you, I guess I'll put this up real quick. As you can see with our practice schedules, this area here, it's drop 1, drop 2, and then we try and break it down by areas with the end zones and the sidelines as well. So,
is that physical times there that was on the left-hand side of there?
Yeah, so generally we're practicing in the evening. We'll practice from about a stretch will start at 6:15, and then we'll have special teams, and then we'll go into individual after that, and then generally do the offensive and defensive side of the balls with scouts and things, 7-on-7 of that nature. But the times I get my schedule from the defense because theirs is a little bit more detailed, and I break it down for the filmers. So what I'll do is if the offense is on the turf, I'll have sideline 1, end zone 2, and I'll mark it on the schedule and circle it for the filmer so they know what they're filming. With you guys and everybody else knowing that we're constantly going through filmers with graduations and things like that, and kids just quitting. It's hard to find kids that know what the heck they're doing. So I like to help them out by circling it, highlighting it, and I'll sit with them before practice to show them exactly what they're filming so that they know what the heck's going on.
Hey, Matt, if you mind me just intervening real fast because Chris was talking about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of going off of a schedule. One thing that really helps is I go ahead and make this for my filmers. I don't know if you can see it too well because I'm trying to yank this out of the wall, kind of. If you can kind of see, I have it color coded a little bit, and I have it labeled as far as kind of what Chris was talking about. I go through the schedule that the defense and offense gives me, and I kind of just remake my own on an Excel file, and I go ahead and write what it was as far as if it was a punt pressure one period, if it was a team period, and then I highlight in different colors when to drop cards, if they are shooting on the ground because we don't have a designated ground camera, and it just makes it a lot easier because what Chris was talking about as far as kids quitting, they're not knowing what's going on, they just have video background and no football experience or anything like that. So it definitely helps making your own file. I know it's a little bit of a pain sometimes as far as having to really do that, but it really helps in the long run as far as for me and for them. I know because then they could just look right down the list exactly what is a big thing. Because if they look at a schedule that I get, there's a very good possibility that they'll miss something that we really need to film. So that's all I kind of had there.
And see, Brooks, I went with that originally as far as doing the breakdown of times, but my kids are not that smart, so they didn't really quite understand that.
Hey guys, I'm going to jump in here real quick. We had a question I'm going to answer over here from Neil about asking if the SD cards have gotten damaged as far as when you throw them down. I haven't seen I don't believe it's been damaged from that. I have had a couple SD cards that were damaged from the same batch, but I don't believe it's related to that. We're going to kind of keep an eye on it, and I'll let you know. But I picked up the tennis ball idea, like I said, at the national conference, and I hadn't heard about any issues with the tennis ball. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it to past president, which I neglected to leave out originally. Past president Luke Goldstein at Virginia.
Hey, I guess with being the veteran of 13 years, I'm in a really good situation. We built a brand new indoor about 2 years ago, and what we did there was our administration, after Notre Dame tragedy, they were willing to give us remote cameras. Initially, I thought we were just going to get them in the end zones, get them in the indoor. And they said, let's go ahead and do it amongst everything. So we have 7 remote cameras that we are able to do. 7 remote cameras. We can roll up to 5 of them. We're in a situation too where our staff is a little old school. We may not, probably at one time we may roll up to 5 or 6, but I'll also shoot 160s mixed in with that. But what I did when I built the indoor, luckily enough, again, was able to be kind of on the. They asked me questions. They didn't just build it for the most part. So I was able to build a platform. Well, they gave me a kind of a platform up top, a balcony area that half of it looks over into our indoor, and then the other half there's glass doors and it looks on the outdoor. So I have a huge balcony up there that we can see on both sides. We put our entire workstation up there. All our remotes for our cameras are all up on this area. So I can control up to 5 cameras at a time. We record to little HMR10s through a routing system. We can choose what it's my boss calling, but I'm just gonna put on hold for that. We're gonna HMR10 through fiber from the cameras that we have, and then we also shoot 160s for our inside sideline just because of how tight it is to the sideline. I fibered back in 2 workstations. I fibered back into my server inside, so I actually have workstations, DV Sport workstations, up at our area up there. So for me, I basically turn around and we hand our cards off to our editors that are inside. So we're really lucky in that regard that we don't run cards anymore. We're not doing drops anymore. Although a couple times this year we did practice at a different area that we had to rent lifts and do all that kind of stuff. What I used to do which this was still when we had P2 stuff, but we used to actually use with the kind of laundry bags that you get from your equipment guys. So we would actually put the cards inside of those laundry bags with the rope, throw the rope down, and then pull it back up so that you were always doing it that way. That seemed to work pretty good, although sometimes the kids would get stuck trying to zip up the bag or do the thing on the bag or whatever it might be. But that worked out pretty well for us, doing that with our different lifts. So just as far as the schedule goes, and you guys can see here, I don't know, you can kind of same thing. I actually go through each of our cameras on a daily basis, and I take our master schedule, and then I go through and I give them the basics of what they're actually going to do that day. So you'll see, like, okay, they know this is where it is on the field. They got a break or whatever it is, and then the blue arrows are my big drop arrows. This is what you're dropping, right on through. This is kind of my main end zone. So they have a lot going on as far as it goes. So there's not a ton of break time for them, but that's kind of it. And then I'll have 5 of these on a daily basis for the different cameras. They're all color coded to the cards that they're getting. So this girl always gets the green cards. The blue cards, it will say camera 11 up top. They'll get the blue cards. It'll be highlighted in blue. So they always know exactly what they have to do. It goes by the cards. And then for my editors, and I ran over and printed this out. I should have printed out the next thing. Is I actually have an Excel spread, same idea, and it says on card 1, I've got this drill, this drill, this drill. Card, blue card 2, this drill, this drill, this drill. And it really helps to keep our editors organized, because the way it works, I'll shoot or I'll edit. It just really depends on the day, depends on the students that I have, who's going to be around. So, like on Tuesdays, I shoot the sideline camera for our offense and our combined team stuff. On Wednesdays, I do the same thing on Thursday as I end up editing. Last week, I had a kid call out. I filmed and I edited. But like what Chris said, on Thursdays, our practice is so short that really one person can do it. And I think if I were to edit by myself, I could probably do most of it myself, but my kids are really good, and I'm able to kind of balance doing a lot of different things and with my other responsibilities, just to be out of practice and overseeing that, because I let my assistant not come to practice so he can work on the highlight tape. So that's kind of what he does on a weekly basis. So hopefully that answers that question.
Well, that's good. And for those that are watching on YouTube, Dory at Hawaii commented and said that she got the tennis ball idea from Matt DeMitt at Utah, and they put theirs in a plastic bag to help eliminate with water and dust issues, and that's worked pretty well for them at this point. So some thoughts from Dory at Hawaii. So
hey, Matt, I was going to jump in one thing. You said something about the damaged cards before.
Sure.
The only time that I've seen a damaged card, it wasn't from dropping or anything like that, but I did have the pins on the card actually get bent when I was putting it in, and this is something I was going to just bring to the group, and because I know some guys aren't talking to some people that have come through. Dave Spina this weekend, he was here, so we got to talk a little bit. We talked a lot about alpacas, I'll tell you what. But in any regard, I found a free card formatting software online, and I'm actually able to use that to format our cards every day. So I just loaded that on our PCs, popped that in my card readers that sit on top of my PCs, and I use that to format my cards rather than sticking in the camera or in the HMR10, and it works. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can clean off the 16, 20 cards every day with, in a matter of 5 minutes or whatever it might be. So it's pretty slick that way.
Hey Luke, are you using any Sony cameras? Because I know with Sony's they build a database file in there, and it's a little bit different than the Panasonics as far as building like I said, building a database file. So like with the Panasonic, you can basically just kind of start with virtually nothing on the card.
Yeah.
With the Sonys, it asks for the database file.
Yeah, I was worried about that actually when I first started using it, wondering if you rebuilt when you did it, and it seems to work okay on the Panasonic. So I guess for guys that are using Sonys, don't use that, but on the Panasonic stuff, it works out really well that way.
If you send me the link, I'll put it up on CSVA under the tips and tricks for this link, and we'll get that kind of sent out. Brooks, do you have something?
No, I'm good.
I guess Chris just jumped on me, but I was gonna talk about a little bit about some editing or some vendor specific. I guess it would be editing tips and tricks. And so you two with being DB Sport and whatnot. One thing with Exos that I found that's been really kind of neat for this year is you can take 3 individual pieces of media and use the quick intercut tool. If you have a sideline, an end zone, and a second end zone, let's say you want to use, you can use the quick intercut tool, which is if you click your 3 clips and you press Control I as an intercut, it'll bring up the quick intercut window, and you can intercut those quickly. You can sort as far as what angle you want in which order, and when you hit intercut, it's going to say this isn't the default in the default order, and you just click OK, and it'll go ahead and accept it. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing that I don't know if it's been there the whole time with Exos, I just didn't know it, but that's one thing that I find saves me a little bit of time, because when you go into the regular intercut tool, it takes a little bit more time. Chris, I was just talking about vendor-specific tips and tricks as far as within the editing system.
I gotcha. Yeah, I've used that quick intercut tool, and it's pretty fantastic. I don't know. I guess I'm pretty old school when I go about doing things, so I just do it the old-fashioned way. I've never really, I guess, taken the time to learn any of the quick intercut or the quick tools until this year. But one of the things that's been, I guess, currently going on is with Exos trying to export anything to the DVD or whatnot. One of the things that I was told and that we kind of troubleshot with was if you have a edit with PowerPoint slides in it. That's been one of the things as far as coaches trying to do self-teaching tapes to the players and anything like that. I've just done a voiceover for it and exported that file to an MP4 and then burned it to a disk that way. It, I guess, eliminates having to do a clean master edit to a 480i, which I've had to see done with a lot of the edits that we've had. But it's been a big help, and it's been something that's helped me spend less time in the office, which is always good for any video guy out there.
Sorry about that. I forgot to put your big screen. And this is just a quick, one or two things that, it's not meant to be a vendor platform thing. So Brooks, if you've got anything, I'm more than willing to hear as far as DB Sport, and I'm sure other DB Sport guys are willing to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure Luke can definitely hit a lot more than I can just because of his expertise level. But one thing I'll say, whether it's Export or Exos or DB Sport, is to be organized. I can't stress that enough. I mean, just going through, and we just started with this. We just started with the new transition from, they had web before here, and it's yeah. I won't comment on that, but just going through that whole transition and what we had with in Murray State is just to be as organized as you can, because otherwise, if you're trying to find something, it is an absolute nightmare trying to find something if you don't know where it's at. And if someone tries to come on and help you or something like that, one of your students, if they don't know where it's at, then obviously they can't help you. So one thing I do in games is be as detailed as possible, and especially in the keywords. I know Luke could probably comment on that, but if you look in DB Sport in the games section where it says keywords, I always put exactly what I have in the tape section. So it's always the date first, where the tape is about. So our next opponent's Toledo. So it would say their date, Toledo, and then opponent film 0 or game number 01, 02, whatever the case may be, and then who they played. I know that sounds kind of like an extra step, but if you're trying to find something in a hurry and you're trying to send it to a school to consolidate and export, it saves you a lot of time. Just go ahead and doing that and have it separated by games, opponent film. Like for the games properties, I always, where it says season folders, I have that as detailed as possible. So I would have stuff, our games would all be in games. If it's an opponent game, it would all be an opponent. If it was a coach that requested it, it's all that coach, and then their coach's tapes, whether it's really a coach tape or not. It just makes it easier, and it sorts it in a way to where it's easy to go back and go back and get it. That's the biggest thing that I see with a lot of people, and I know past video coordinators at Murray State. He's actually a DB Sport client or DB Sport worker now, Matt Saraceno. He kind of did that, and it definitely helps a lot in being as organized as you can, especially at a smaller school like Murray State when you only have about a 2 terabyte server. So being as organized as you can, whether it's Exos or DB Sport, is definitely something I recommend.
Now, Brooks, have you always gone with like side of ball on that then too? As far as like you got like Toledo offense versus whoever defense, things like that?
Yeah, so the way DB Sport works is they have it split up in ODK if you're in the game section. It's Exos, from my understanding, I've never really used it, but at CSVA I was definitely trying to at least get a general knowledge of it more than anything else. When you're in the game section, it splits it up after you mark ODK, and it'll be all of your offensive clips, all of your defensive clips, and all of your special teams all separated into 3 different sections. So really, if you go into the full game portion, it'll split it up that way, and it'll be all one big file. But it's also going to be split up as far as ODK goes, and all offense, all defense, and all special teams.
So Brooks, you're actually putting in the actual notes at the bottom. So after you put in the actual properties, in that bottom notes, you're putting in all that information?
No, not in the comment section, but in the keywords. But in the keywords section, I always just put it in there. I mean, it's just another task, but in my mind, it makes it a lot easier.
I'll have to look. I'm not that expertise, apparently, that I can't remember how it looks. But I always put down in the comments, I always put that date of the, whatever the date is of the practice. So tomorrow would be 09, what is tomorrow?
16.
16, so 09, 16, 14. And that way in games, when it lists it, in those comments, it gives you that way, and I always know that because we had some problems. Just you can reference it pretty quickly that way. But we did have problems a couple years ago. I think they must have taken care of. But now when we do practice, every day it's 09, 16, 14 off team sideline. So we give it the full year as far the month, the day, and the year all the way across because we tried it with just the month and the day. And then we had replication the year before. There was some confusion. This was back in probably 08, 09. So that's just one thing.
And one thing on that note, real quick. In the game properties, there's actually 2 boxes at the bottom that says practice and miscellaneous. So if it's always a practice, I just mark that as a checkbox. So then that way you have it sorted that way too.
That's funny. I was told that they said don't worry about that. So different people have different things. Hey, Matt Schilling, Will Brown says he doesn't know how to join in. He just sent me a text, and he says he doesn't know how to join. So can you tell him how to join? I don't know. He just sent me a picture of myself here, and he said he doesn't know how to join, so I don't know if we can see that, but that's what it says. He got that, so I don't know where he's having trouble. Maybe on YouTube or something.
I think it's probably the Hangout. And Will, if you're watching, I believe there's a link within YouTube. It should be it should say I believe to view in Google. You can do it that way. And if need be, we can go ahead and repost this. And Luke, before you jumped in, before you jump in and give us some of your valuable feedback. I know we're getting close on to what we promised this time, and if you guys got to go, you just tell me, and we can wrap it up at any point. Dory says that if you do not have an E6520 or higher, this is for Exos. You cannot run the voiceover tool. If you have PowerPoint slides on the video, the iPad option also works nicely too. So I think she's referring to the Thundercloud. It will import and play back nicely in DV Sport. So that's one thing. That's one right there.
Just people helping people here. That's what we're trying to do.
It's almost like a nice radio show. Go ahead.
I had one thing. It's kind of off this topic, but what's really something that we did. We actually did it in all our meeting rooms, and we did it here in our office. A little expensive, relatively expensive for paint, but we have some whiteboard paint on our walls. And what's really cool is that we have a whole wall that's painted with this whiteboard paint, and you use dry erase markers. You can write on it. You can erase it. We have it in all our meeting rooms and our staff rooms. And I think a gallon of it is probably $250. Luckily, it was an expense in our football department, but just a nice place to organize your students, what's going on for the week, all that kind of stuff. Maybe if you talk to facilities, you can do something like that. But they painted over a wall, and I have an entire wall that is all whiteboard, which is pretty slick. It's also great for my 4 kids. They come in, they draw like lots of pictures on the wall when they're here in the office. So
We've done the same thing in a few of our meeting rooms also with the whiteboard paint. And that does work pretty slick. Liz Lambert at Arkansas State has asked if you've ever seen any issues where the audio and video do not match up in voiceover. This is another Exos question. I've actually asked Exos about this. I believe it's in the release notes. There's like about a 5-minute time limit where you will not have an issue with the audio and video not matching up. And it's after that point that it will become out of sync. I think I laid it down into Sony Vegas, and somehow it matched itself back up kind of magically. So I don't know if you tried dropping it in your post production, if that would help or not. Chris, I don't know if you've seen anything similar.
I mean, I've had some similar problems. Like you were saying, though, I dropped it in Adobe Premiere, and usually it tends to match up after that. But no, any of my voiceovers I've generally had have not been over 5 minutes. I try and keep coaches underneath that 5-minute mark, just to help out with, I guess, keeping the players' attention span as well. So. Sure.
Like I said, we're up against that half-hour deadline that I promised you guys, and if you guys have to go, I completely understand. I don't know if you guys wanted to get to game day workflow or anything you kind of do special for game day. I know one thing I had highlighted, I had seen it. I think that Kansas does it. I want to say that Ken does it at UCLA. Ken will probably beat me for saying this incorrectly, but I believe there are some schools out there that do a dedicated scoreboard camera to try to get the correct scoreboard to, for those that don't do XMLs or those that, have to have the correct scoreboard. I didn't know if there was anything that any of you guys do, if it's something that mattered to your coaches or not. Just kind of need feedback that way.
I grease my scoreboard guy with gear, and he's the best in the country. Norris was here the first week of the season and tweeted that, so I guess that's pretty good. So we do that for our scoreboard guy. That's my. Do we want to talk about game day, or we just want to talk about scoreboards? But that's our guy's just unbelievable. And when he's not there, it's a sad day in my life. When the days that he takes off, and so.
Are you just slipping him like $20 and a hoagie sandwich, or what?
It's unbelievable. Like, no, I gave him shirts and hats, and I go up to him every game and I tell him that he's the best. And he's a young guy, and he actually gets it. I guess it's not that hard to hit some buttons on the scoreboard. It's ridiculous how nice it makes your life when the scoreboard guy is good, as opposed to when you're struggling to wait for that scoreboard to change and you're trying to get it right and you're looking over your shoulder and everybody's running hurry up now, and I'm sure some are running a lot faster than everybody else. But just to have that, I mean, even last year we played Oregon, we played BYU, and we played Ball State, who all run that really fast hurry up. And those 3 games, I think I shot 2 scoreboards that weren't correct. It was unbelievable. I mean, he's that good. So.
Hell, I need to try something like that, because we had the BYU game last year. They ran 115 snaps on us, and it was just like, I don't think I've had one correct scoreboard this entire last 2 years. But no, I think that's something that's valuable to help out with people too. Is basically treat the people right that you're going to be working with closely, like the scoreboard people or any of the sports SID people, because. My sports info people, there's like, do we need to get anything? Like, what can we do to help you out? And hell, if it takes a brownie or a T-shirt to get my scoreboard correct, you're damn right I'm going to do that.
Our facilities guys are the ones that take care of it, and we had an issue a couple years ago where there was a guy filling in, and I talked to him and I said, listen, this is an important part of what I do on a daily on a game day basis for what we have to do amongst our exchange in our league. You're supposed to have a correct scoreboard. This is too important. And he made a point, and he actually fired a guy because the guy was so bad. And so you just have to find the right people, and like you said, treat people with respect and tell them how much you appreciate what they do, regardless of what they're doing. And that's another, just on that same note, I tell my students as much as I can what a good job they've done. And I think it's so important to do that, because for them to hear and I tell them the first day they come into work, I said, listen, I couldn't do my job without you guys, because there's only one of me and there's 8 of you guys. And so I think across the board, for all of us, if we just respect the the kids that we have working for us and realize as much as, hey, they miss snaps and they miss plays, but the fact is that we couldn't do the job without them, and just thank them for that and appreciate them for who they are. And then hire my kids when they come to your school, if you would.
No, I full-heartedly agree with you there. My kids, I mean, there's at least 4 or 5 misplays a week. And I'm like, listen, my job's in your hands. Like, you help me get the tape out there, and I kick them shirts, I kick them whatever. And you would think these kids had been in Charlie's Chocolate Factory when I told them that they got a new pair of shoes this year. But no, I agree with you fully on that. Brooks, what about you?
No, I totally agree. I mean, coming from Murray State, I could give 1 scholarship and 1 work study, and that was it. So, I mean, you're pretty much at the bottom of the barrel as far as what you can give them. So, I mean, I told them flat out, I said, you know, you're saving me every single day that you come to practice and working basically for free. And, you know, they enjoyed doing it. They enjoyed working. The main thing is, you know, they like being a part of the team, which, you know, that's what it's all about. So just, you know, tell them every day, you know, and now if they completely screwed up, you can't just say, hey, nice job, and let it go by. But, you know, if they do a good job, say, nice job, and I thank you for, for helping me and helping the team. So,
Guys, I jumped in on the very back end of this. I apologize. I had a phone call, but I know one thing we do here for our students is we'll occasionally, out of our pockets, go ahead and buy them a meal, dinner. You know, we'll buy Papa John's pizza. As bad as it is, as bad as some of us think it is, it goes a long way for students. They think it's the best thing ever. You know, you get a couple of cans of pop from the equipment room, and get that pizza. And if you get it later in November, I know it gets a little cool down there at Ball State, and it gets a little cool down there in Virginia, and it's still hot as hell down there in Houston. But that pizza, I think stuff like that goes a long way as far as that goes. I know. I want to roll back on one thing real quick as far as with your SIDs and whatnot, and just because we've had a couple of things going back and forth in the Big Ten. If you're playing a school and they aren't going to give you an XML, they're not going to give you an XML, your SID gets what's called an FPK file. It's how they're able to build stats, a year-long stat deal, and post that. Your SID should be able to give you an XML even if it's a road game. So I was at TCU this past week, and if TCU hadn't given me an XML or a PDF, they did give me a FPK file. All I'd have to do is give it to my sports information guy. He can give you everything you need from there, whether it's a PDF, XML, you name it, and they can take care of you as far as that goes. So I don't know where we're at. Let's see. If you guys have any post-game, whether it's TV Sport, Exos, workflow things, I think everybody's kind of set in their ways as far as that goes, so I don't think there's too much else.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing, and I just want to, so again, talking to my man with the alpacas at Louisville, I mentioned to him, and I had forgot to do it the first 2 weeks, but on the 160s, you can record simultaneously on the cameras themselves. You can have 2 cards in at the same time and record to both of them at the same time. If you're popping your top card every quarter, you pop that out and you can bring that into your editor. But the bottom card can be a redundant backup for you. So if you do have a problem with a card, you have a continuous roll. I mean, it's stopping and starting when you're stopping and starting the camera, but there's a setting in record settings to put on simultaneous record. And for games, it might be a good idea for folks if they're not aware of that, to realize that setting is in there, and it's pretty slick.
Sure. Portable power supply for anything. Wonder what I meant by that. I'm just going back and I'm looking through. I sent out an email, for those of you that don't know, I sent out an email amongst the 4 of us, just kind of outlining just some general ideas as far as what we want to talk about. I know Brooks kind of had a question, and I think all 3 of us or the rest of the 3 of us are Premier guys, but just as far as kind of how do you organize, and Brooks, I guess I'm going to start with this one with Luke, since he's been around the longest, and even though he's kind of jumped out of the post workflow, just how do you label how do you label your clips? How do you label your files for easy? So let's say your quarterback one made a play. He was a true sophomore and he played. And now it's senior year. You want to go back and pull that clip.
Right.
How are you labeling things so that you know what it's called? I know it's a little bit easier when you're the post guy. You've been there the longest, but for kind of an in and out type of deal.
So I'll tell you, when I was doing the post stuff up until 2 years ago, I was always very specific with, I'd say my number. I'd say, okay, my quarterback number 7. Well, the quarterback never gets any love, right? Because it's always the receiver that catches the ball you're going to end up putting it down there. But let's just say it was the receiver. So number 84, catch over the middle, whatever it might be. And so I would do that, and I would kind of have my stuff organized by year. And what I found was what really happened is we started working more hand in hand with our production team here at Virginia. And so what we ended up doing, and what they do, which really makes a lot of sense, is as they label every play, they put in 14 underscore football, FB, because all the different sports, underscore, UNC, so because it's us versus them, and then whatever it is, and they actually would name the actual player. Now, I'm still not sold on that, so they would say Schilling, great catch, or whatever it might be. I still like the number system in that regard, but to have that first part of it helps out, I think, in the organization as far as what you can do when you start to look at everything down the line. One of our guys actually ran a script so you can take all your files, and I don't know how to dump them in, and it actually will rename all of them 14FB underscore UNC dash O underscore 001, and then you can just rename the 001 all along the way to whatever you want to be that way. And they can stay pretty organized that way. My assistant, he does everything that way because we're shooting on a game itself. We're shooting 2 500 of the big P2s, the 500s. We're shooting 2 160s. We're shooting SLR. We also have a red epic that we shoot for games as well. So there's a lot of footage coming in and out, and to have that base naming, that nomenclature helps out a lot. The other thing that they started doing this year was using the words awesome, epic, great, good with cap letters, and that way when you go back through it, you can see it immediately, as opposed to, hey, this is good, this is okay, this is whatever. There's those words that really stick out to you. So when you're going back and you're running that highlight tape at the end of the year, you need to pull something. It's an easy thing to do, or you're running a TV spot or whatever it might be that you got to pull from. You can pull from that stuff.
Chris?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. No, we go along the same routes here. Downstairs with the production crew we have down there, David shoots a lot of the highlights, so I mainly stick to coach's film and doing the motivational videos. But with David and I, things we talked about as far as doing, 2014, number 5, O'Corn, awesome, epic, badass, whatever verb I guess you want to use there. But we try and use those words to make it easier at the end of the year, so that you do have time to make those highlights, or you're not sitting around like, fan with foam finger. It's like that's definitely a clip we want to use. So we try and keep it that way, and we also have multiple externals that we keep for individual games. And one of the things we tried doing this year, now that people have been asking about it at the last, convention or conference, whatever you want to call it, that we had this last year, was the overhead sky cam. I just got back from BYU, and we got the ESPN melt, obviously, from the game. But I reached out to ESPN and asked them, I said, hey, would it be at all possible if we could get that sky cam to use for some highlight footage? And they have been extremely easy to work with, got me connected with the right guy, and now just trying to get it worked out to where I can get that file and use it in motivationals and recruiting things as well. But it's getting a lot easier, and as we're all seeing everything we got going on, it's like Brooks was saying, the more organized you are with everything, the better off you're going to be in the end. I mean, be it from practice footage, game footage, to highlight footage, because you don't want to be sitting there at the end of the year banquet trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do.
Hey guys, I gotta run. I'm sorry. I gotta run to a meeting. It was awesome, Matt. Great idea. Really, I was really happy to be a part of this and sit down with you guys virtually here. And To all those folks out there, we love you. You're the best. All right, we'll see you guys.
Thanks,
I'm
Luke.
out.
See you.
I'd also like myself. They're not verbs; they're adjectives. I've just got a text saying that I was incorrect there. But guys, I got to go too. Just had a scout show up, as we all know how that happens. I hope he brought donuts. So you guys have a good rest of the day. If you guys ever need anything from Houston, please let me know. Glad to help out in any way I can. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
Brooks, it's just you and me. We're going to wrap this up here. Sometimes this is the way it goes, just with time.
Okay.
We're 15 minutes over anyway. And just take as long as you want. We can go back and forth for anybody out there still watching. Wants to ask any questions, we can do that too. Or we can answer any questions too.
Yeah. So basically, hopefully this works. I'm wanting to do a kind of a screen share. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this is kind of what they were talking about, and this is what helps us. If it's any kind of art shot, we start it with art and then work our way through as far as what it should look like. So this is Eric Patterson. So it's labeled art underscore and then BSU5, which is his number, and then what it actually was. So he was smiling on the play, so they labeled it ISO smiling. If it's any kind of play during the game, it would be labeled BSU, and then whoever the player touching the ball was. So obviously our quarterback number is 15. As you can see, all the ones with 15. So it'd be labeled BSU 15. This one should be underscore. But the reason why we do this is because now that we have this folder structure, we can go up here in the search bar and type in BSU 15, and now all the plays that Ozzie Mann, that's our quarterback, BSU 15, all the plays that he actually was participating in, all of them are in here now.
How do you discern? Sorry, Brooks. I'm gonna go ahead and ask this.
Yeah.
But, how do you discern when you have duplicate jerseys? So let's say you have two 15s.
Honestly, you don't really know as far as right now.
Sure. I was just asking how you would discern it with your labeling nomenclature.
Yeah, so I mean, most of the time we don't really have that problem. If it is a problem, then we can kind of go more in depth as far as organizing them later. But as you well know, and everyone else knows, if they're duplicate jerseys, most of the time they're not playing much. So it's really the duplicate jerseys part. It really hasn't played an effect so far, but that might be something to definitely look into for next year or later on down the road for sure.
Perfect. Unless you have anything else, I'm kind of tapped out. Brooks, I thank you.
Yeah.
I think Luke Goldstein and Chris Miller for joining us. Like I said, I'm gonna aim to do this every 2 to 3 weeks. The next one I'm kind of looking at kind of works perfectly for me in a bye week, so my schedule's a little more flexible. Look out, anybody may be coming as far as being asked. You don't have to. Mondays seem to kind of be the best day for everybody. Got a little bit of time, a little bit of gap. Kind of willing to do any time during that time. So we're just looking for people that are willing to drop some knowledge, and I think we've dropped a little bit of knowledge here today. If you have any comments, go ahead and comment on the Facebooks, comment on the Twitters. We're at CSVA, and in case you guys don't know, and follow us on the Facebooks, which I'm sure most of you guys are. So appreciate it, Brooks. Thanks. And,
thank you, Matt.
And this is Matt Schilling signing off.